All right, we're live now. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. I'm excited.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, let's go. Let's go. Yeah, so tonight, Phil, founder of SRX Indicator, we're going to talk about how Lance has managed to get an 89% win rate on this indicator. It's going to be really exciting. Hey, Cakeinator. Hi,
Hey.
WB Gaming. Let's go. Yeah, let's go.
All
Yeah,
right.
so we're going to do a couple of presentations here. Good evening, Erwin. Hope you're doing well. So we're going to do a couple of presentations, one from Phil to start with, going over what the SRX is all about, and then we'll get into Lance's presentation about basically how he's managed to double a small account in 2 months with an 89% win rate, which is absolutely crazy. Hey,
Yeah.
Aiden, hope you're doing well. All right, well, let's get started with the show here. I'll put up the SRX level presentation. WWZ Gaming says SRX is all about winning. It's true.
All right.
All right.
All right. So this is just a brief recap on SRX levels in case we have any new people here tonight. I think a lot of you are already in the Discord. You're already doing SRX levels with us, but just in case you're new to us, let's go over what it is. So it's a support and resistance indicator, and it works for SPY, QQQ, and IWM. So here's the problem that I found. Most traders are flying blind, especially when it comes to support and resistance. You've kind of got two schools here. You've got drawing by hand and you've got the use of trading view indicators. When you're drawing by hand, it can be subjective and inconsistent. Of course, two traders can look at the same exact chart and draw completely different levels. And there's no statistical basis behind any of the levels that are being drawn if you're drawing them by hand. Now, on the other side of this, if you're using an indicator, a lot of the indicators that are on TradingView, they're one size fits all. So the same system that you're using to draw levels for SPY is also drawing levels for Apple and GameStop and Bitcoin. And that's where we're different. Neither approach is built for the way that SPY, QQQ, and IWM actually move. So, what is SRX levels? Well, what it's not random lines. It's a proprietary support and resistance system built specifically for SPY, QQQ, and IWM. And this is what really sets us apart. This is kind of the secret sauce of the system. Every day we come up with fresh levels that are delivered to Discord, and the algorithm analyzes thousands of candles first thing in the morning every day and tens of thousands of data points. And it uses all of that information to identify statistically significant levels that the market has actually respected. And it's really easy to use. The levels come to you on Discord at 9:50 a.m. Eastern Time. It's just one click to copy them. All the levels are formatted for TradingView. You copy it with a single click, so you don't have to worry about marking out lines on your chart. You don't have to worry about any math or guesswork or manual entry. It's all done for you. You just paste it and you trade. So here's some examples of trades that I personally took. You can see this is from November 25th of last year. This was 174% on a SPY call. You can see these are the different levels here. And this line is an 8 EMA. You can see we've got two up arrows here. So I got in on one of these up arrows. I don't remember which one, but I rode this from 163 to 448, which again is it's almost 175%. Here's another one that I took. This is a put on SPY. This was a 173% play. We've got one here that's 216% on a SPY call. And this is just a real small one, just real tiny. Want to show you guys that we do all kind of sizes here. This is 57% on IWM. Of course, I'm joking here. 57% is quite the move, but yeah. So here is February 26th. This was a couple weeks ago. I wanted to see what it would be like if I took every single trade that SRX spit out for SPY, QQQ, and IWM. I tried this before in the past, doing it manually, but it's a lot of work trying to catch every single play. So I built a bot that would auto trade this stuff for me. It took 36 trades and it ended the day with an $833 profit. You can see that SPY had almost 85% win rate. QQQ was very similar, it's 86% win rate. IWM had a lower win rate, but it made up for it with runners. And my favorite system is the EMA puts, especially on SPY and QQQ. And on SPY, the EMA puts this day were 100% win rate. I wanted to throw in a couple testimonials in here. We have a ton of testimonials, and I was looking through all this stuff trying to figure out what I want to use. And this one actually popped up today, and I thought this was hilarious. So I thought I'd just include this. So Celtic Trader says, beautiful. SRX S1 to the penny again. So he posts this right around market close, and that's because we closed right at S1 today. And he says, these levels are unreal. And then Urban Organics replies that the levels are so accurate, I'm starting to think there may be some black magic and ritual sacrifice involved. So,
there is.
well, I want to reassure everybody that there is none of that, but it's just a lot of math. So, what's today's webinar about? Well, we asked you what's next for SRX, and you answered that you wanted a yearly option and you wanted coaching. So that's exactly what we've built, and that's what we're going to be covering today.
WWZD Gaming says we sacrifice, I'll put it up on the screen, we sacrifice a Wall Street trader every day to power the levels.
Nice.
Very good. Is there any questions about what SRX actually is to start with? So if there's anybody watching who doesn't have it or is new to the whole thing, this is the time to start asking detailed questions about what SRX is actually all about. Urban Organics is saying, if you say so. Yeah, there's no sorcery at all whatsoever. So yeah. So you guys got any questions about SRX in general before we move on to look at Lance's detailed case study, essentially? If there's anything else you want to add, Phil, about the SRX indicator before we move on? I mean, yeah.
No, I see Cakeinator is asking it's a buy indicator. Yeah, that's it. Well, you can really do anything you want with it. It's a support and resistance indicator. So it draws lines on your screen, and I'm sure Lance will show that in a minute. But yeah, you can buy you could buy when you get the alerts, or you could do credit spreads as well. Or you could just sell naked puts. You could do any type of trading that you want to do with these levels. I think Urban Organics, don't you do a ton of spreads with it?
Yeah, he posts it on the chat quite a bit, the credit spreads and iron condors and even butterflies. So it's very well rounded. You can do a lot of different things with these levels.
Yep.
Very cool. And I guess one of the things you told me about was the fact that this is all done on a server outside of TradingView because it's so powerful. It takes so much computing power. TradingView isn't really capable of doing it. That really impressed me. So it's worth saying.
Yeah, you're not going to find something like this on TradingView. You know, there's obviously a ton of indicators that you can go through on TradingView, tons of support and resistance indicators, but nothing is going to be like this. I've tested a lot of those indicators out, and yeah, they're not very good. This is different.
Yeah,
this one actually works.
Yeah, definitely, and that's another big difference. I've been testing indicators for years now, and you're probably one of only two I've come across, maybe even just one, the way you've done it, where you actually back test things thoroughly. And even forward test with what we're going to show with Lance in a few minutes as well. So like that does separate the SRX indicator from pretty much every other indicator out there, is that all the other indicators are just making stuff up generally, right? Like they just say, oh, we have an 80% win rate or a 70% win rate, but they don't have any of the back tests to really prove it or to show.
Yeah, or if it's an 80% win rate, it's based on 5 or 6 trades. You know, I build this stuff because I want to trade with it. So these are the actual products and services that I use, and you'll see in a minute Lance uses them too. So obviously, if this stuff wasn't any good, we wouldn't be putting our own money at risk taking these trades every day. So that's
Right.
what's different about us, is that we're not first and foremost an alert service. We're first and foremost traders, and we're creating services for ourselves. And then, when we find a good one, we're able to monetize that and pass it on to the people in the Discord. So yeah, that's great. It's a win-win.
So we got a question here. Is this better than GEX levels? I don't know what GEX levels are. Do either of you guys know?
Yeah, Gex levels. I don't really have much experience with Gex levels. I think Aiden's in here. I bet Aiden messes around with Gex levels, so maybe Aiden can chime in on the chat and give his opinion of how SRX compares to Gex. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't compared them side by side.
Yeah, it typically has to do with the amount of volume and certain strike prices. So if you have the volume at, say, 10 points above the current price, that might be acting as a support and resistance. It doesn't always work that way. Typically, you might see a lot of, like the call walls and put walls. So essentially, if you have a large volume, it might be hard to break through those. It's similar, but one, a lot of people already know about these because they're pretty readily available, while SRX aren't. And two, it could help with confirmation. So yeah, as Eden's saying, it could correlate with them as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's worth pointing out with the SRX, you get the chat room as well, where people like Lance and Phil are super active. And so as we go through Lance's presentation in the next few minutes, it's worth bearing in mind that you've got access directly to Lance, which is pretty much unheard of with any of these other TradingView like type of indicators. You're basically left to your own devices with those. The level of customer support that I've found with most TradingView indicators sucks. It really does. They often just won't respond to emails. They certainly won't hold your hand and talk you through how to best use the indicator. They might, if you're lucky, you might get a couple of shoddy YouTube guides or something on how to use it. But having having this chat room is important. It really is. It really is important. So anyway, Lance, do you want to load up your slides and we'll move on to the case study of your 89% win rate and your doubling your account in 8 weeks?
I'm going to share my entire screen here. Let's see.
Okay.
You might have to unclick Phil's and open mine.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
All right. It's just that. Real quick, I just wanted to show how to add on the levels because I saw another question on Russell. Can you tell me more about it? So when you go on the Discord for SRX, you could see the SPY levels, QQQ levels, and IWM levels. And all you do is, for, say, SPY levels, you're just going to double click and copy these numbers. And then you go to the indicator and you paste it. And that's it. You could do those for all three. I personally have 2 windows up. I'll have SPY in one. I'll have QQQ or IWM in the other. And then every day, these new green and red levels come up. These are very accurate support and resistance levels. So if any of you guys that are new, it's really straightforward how to add these levels in. They come in at 8:50 Central or 9:50 Eastern Standard Time every day. You just add in the levels, and then I have my Thinkorswim ready, and then I'll just copy the alerts or copy the actual option trade and then put it in there.
Yeah.
Go over the presentation that I have.
Yeah, I just put up a comment from Urban Organics for people watching the replay and haven't got access to live chat. He's saying 100% to the point. Anyone watching this that hasn't already signed up, the value is in the community for sure. But yeah, the indicator is also fire. So it's good to see. It's good to see.
Yeah, and I am a teacher by trade. I'm a high school science teacher. So I call myself the options teacher here. And we constantly throughout the day is helping questions with, what are you looking at? Sometimes tech support, like how do I enter in the levels correctly? Some certain signals not coming up, and we could go over the levels and the different settings that we have.
Yeah.
Anyway, today I'm going to go over a few of the main things that I look for using these levels. So first, we're going to look at a break and a retest. Break is when, I don't know why it says sharing my screen on the bottom, but I'll just leave it up. Break and retest is my most consistent setup that I do primarily. There's also the EMAs, which I've been doing more of lately. We'll look at different ways to get confluence on it with trend lines, also volume. And then one of the key parts is trade management. Just because levels are working out well, if you don't have proper trade management, you might have a couple of losses in a row, and that could blow the accounts up. So I'm going to go over the percentages that I use and how I manage trades where it has a very high win rate.
Yeah.
I'll also go over what I'm still testing.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out at this point before we get started that this isn't just a levels indicator. There actually are buy and sell signals as well. So sometimes people think that it's just levels and you're left to kind of your own devices. But Phil very cleverly programmed in a couple of these different strategies that we're going to talk about, where you actually get the indication buy or sell clearly. But you can use it both ways. You can use just the levels, or you can use the actual signals as an indicator as well. Just thought I'd point that out, make sure people aren't confused.
Yeah, I see Erwin wrote a question. Is there a way to use these for futures? Yes, you can. We typically buy at the money calls or puts. So you could do the same thing for futures where you are essentially buying the at the money strike when you're buying an MES or NQ future as well.
Yeah, so you base that on the SPY indicator.
Yeah, and as Phil said, we'll try to expand to futures later this year. Futures is a little bit harder to program, and it's based on the different contracts that are available. Like if there's only a few days left for the futures expiration, then TradingView, I'm not sure exactly what day they switch over to the next one, but that is something that we'll work on. All right, let's go on first break in the retest. So this is my most consistent setup, and it works on any of the SRX levels. It could also work on additional data that we get, like previous day high, previous day low, and whatnot. So these are pretty much opposite of one another. If you want to go bullish on the left side, that means you're going to be buying calls. You want to first look at the break above a key level. So the candle goes above, say, an S1 green level. Then it's going to pull back down to retest it. At that point, it was resistance at first because the candles were below it. So as it broke over it and then bounced down to retest it, that's now a support. So essentially flip from resistance to support. And we're going to go over why, but institutions typically will re-enter and add a lot of size at this point. I personally enter calls at a 5-minute candle close in most cases. And sometimes I'll do it earlier if the momentum and volume is strong. A lot of other members will do shorter time frames. They might even go 2-minute, 1 minute. I personally like the 5-minute because it's a little bit more ready to enter it. For the bearish size, essentially the exact opposite. If you go below a level, so it's above it and then it crosses below it, and then bounces back up to retest, that would be a flip of the support into resistance. In this case, we're looking for a more continued downtrend, and big players and institutions will add shorts and buy puts or short the stock at this point. I personally enter puts at the 5-minute candle close or earlier as well. Here's an example of one happened recently. I think it was on Monday. You see IWM here, that where the red arrow is, there was a large momentum play. We essentially went above the level before it on the first big green candle. Then you see the red candle in between the two greens. That's where it retested it. And you can see the little wick below. It touched the green level there. That is a retest. Institutions want to come in at that point because then this new resistance became support at that point. And then you saw a break and retest alert. It's that blue icon there. That was also an EMA alert, which we'll talk about later. But you could have entered it in either on the candle close, right at where the red arrow is, and then you could have taken calls all the way in that purple line going up. I personally took it about a minute before the candle closed because it was pretty obvious at that point. We were pretty high up above that green bar on the bottom, the support level. So I took it a little bit early and then I just rode the momentum up. Does anyone have any questions on how this is set up or why we take them?
I always find it difficult to time on the break and retest, timing when to get in. Like you said, like you wait for the candle close, but it's quite difficult to time that, because you could be quite far away from the level, right? Like it could have ridden up quite far. So do you have any thoughts on, you said you sometimes within a minute or so of the close?
I can't move my arrow right now on the screen because it's like full screen, but if you see in the very first candle that's red, it was at that certain price. And then the green EMA and BNR candle was above it. So it already filled that previous first candle. So at that point, that could have been a good time to enter. I can't, again, point on the arrow, but somewhere in the middle of that break and retest candle.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to go over a little bit more about that later on in this as well.
All right.
So why does this work? Retest reveals the market conviction. Essentially, big players were waiting to see if we're going to get back to that level, and then they're going to enter in to continue the momentum up. If it's a bullish play, if it's bearish, it's the exact opposite. So missed traders will buy the dip. Participants who miss the initial breakout will see a pullback as a second chance. So a lot of people might have seen it break that S1 or different SRX level. And then they're like, well, we don't want to enter in yet. We're going to wait until we get to a good level, and then we're just going to re-enter at that point. Institutions will test the real buyers. Well, a lot of large players probe those levels to see if there's genuine demand still present. So they're not going to necessarily want to enter in the middle of one of those two SRS levels, but there's essentially trying to see, will we break and retest? At the retest, it's a better entry point. Shorts will cover at the level as well. So bears defending the price. They're looking to go short. They're going to add buying pressure right at that retest zone. And then at that point, the buyers typically will step in. And then the trends confirm, then we'll look at a bullish setup if we're buying for calls. Second one is the EMA momentum trades. This is a more popular one for members currently, and it's been working really well for me as well. Key setup is we use the 8 EMA, it's an exponential moving average. We also added in a VWAP. If you look in the picture here, it's that yellow line that you see. You want to watch for the price to reject one of those SRX levels and also off the 8 EMA. If you're going to go for puts, it wants to be trading below the VWAP. If it was calls, you go above the VWAP. SRX levels will act as a confirmation. You don't want to just simply enter once we cross above an 8 EMA. You want to see, is there a lot of room for it to move to the next level? And typically, you don't want to be trading much when we're in between levels. So if there's a big gap between, say, S1 and R1, and you're right in the middle of the two, you probably want to wait until we're closer to one of the levels before taking a trade. Enter at the 5-minute candle close or earlier if there's momentum and volume. And then puts combined with VWAP has been one of the top performing combinations. Phil did a lot of back testing on this, and by doing the 8 EMA on the put side, especially on downtrending days like last few weeks, it's been very profitable in a lot of cases. All right, so a little bit more of Russell's last question. When do you know when to enter? A few things I'll look at are trend lines. Also volume. Volume's a good indication to see institutions are coming in. Momentum will be on our side in that case. So look for the breakouts that coincide with these levels. Aiden's really good at calling out, bearish head and shoulders and whatnot. A few of the main ones I use are pretty straightforward. If you look at the symmetrical triangle on the top right, you can see the touch points on higher highs higher lows and lower highs, and it's making that triangle formation. Once you see a breakout from there with volume, that could be an indication that we're going to be going more in the bullish side in that case. If the breakout was on the bottom of the triangle with large volume, then you could look for puts. On the bottom left is the ascending triangle. Essentially, you see a lot of support with multiple touch points on the horizontal line. And then you have the higher lows on the diagonal line. If you break above it, then enter in on the calls. Descending triangle is the exact opposite. If it breaks below it with volume, you want to look for puts.
Are you just in this? So you're adding these triangles in on the level trades as well. Do you only take them when they're with confluence with the levels, or
not always? No.
Just ideal if you can find them.
If there happens to be a microscopic ascending or symmetrical triangle, and as you do this more and more, you start to literally see them in front of your eyes. It's like the guy in the Limitless movie. He takes the pill and he's suddenly seeing stuff that others don't. With a lot of practice and repetition, you start to see these different formations occur. I don't always take them when these happen necessarily. Right. Sometimes I'll take a trade like a break and retest when you don't have one of these confluences.
Yep.
Again, volume confirms a breakout. I leave volume as a separate indicator on TradingView, and you can see a thick green or red bar. If that comes in with one of these SRX levels, then that's typically a good time to enter. If you look at this image on the bottom, those bars are showing the amount of volume. You can see a breakout near the end with the head and shoulder pattern. Head and shoulders is when you have the head that's a very low end on the middle. The two shoulders are a little bit above it. And then if you see the neckline, that's where you have multiple touch points. And sometimes this actually happens coinciding with the SRX levels. When you see a breakout from there with volume, that's usually a really good indication that it's going to continue moving up. You could also do the inverse head and shoulders that Aiden talks about a bit. It's pretty much the exact opposite setup. You'd want to look for puts if we have a lot of volume after that breakout. All right, how do I manage trades? I personally trade in multiples of 3. So you do 3, 6, 9 contracts. And then you don't have to close all of your contracts at once. What I personally do is I'll close 2/3 of my contracts, typically at 12 to 15%. So if I did 3 contracts, I'm going to close 2 of them at the 12 to 15% target. And one of the keys at this point with the last contract, I'm going to move the stop loss to the break-even point. At this case, it's a risk-free trade. You know you're going to win because even if the runner goes to break-even, you already profited on 2/3 of the contracts anyway. And this is one way that I get a very high win rate. I'm not looking for the 40, 50% gains on every single trade here. Once I see a good target profit of 12 to 15%, I'll move the stop to break even.
I think this is the secret sauce, so it's worth dwelling on this just a little bit, because if this to me is what separates your winning your win rate of 90% with other people's perhaps they're not doing quite as well as that. So if you are an SRX, this is worth taking a screenshot of and following, in my opinion, just because it could mean the difference between mildly winning or exceptional winning of 90%.
And it's all about the positive expectancy in the trades. If you're going for the big winners and willing to take a lower win rate, you could still have a positive expectancy. But psychologically, it's really hard to keep going on a trade. Let's say you have a target profit of 40% and a stop loss of 20%, you could lose twice as much as you win, and it'll be a break even at that point. But it's just hard psychologically if you're losing twice as many trades as you win. So I personally manage it this way to have, I think it's 90 point something percent win rate since December 1st on these trades.
Superb, yeah. We have a question that I just put up for you.
I can't see it on my screen. Give me a second.
Okay, yeah, I'll read it out then. So,
Set risk level.
yeah.
One of these groups of 3, or a set amount for each trade. Yes to both, depending on what's happening with those conditions. Sometimes I'll have a set risk level based on, let's say we crossed like S1 SRX level. Sometimes I'll put the stop loss if it closes below it, if I'm in calls. I'd also do above it if it's puts. And I go a little bit above it, about 0.1, 0.15 difference from the actual level number. And I just set an alert on TradingView. If it happens to touch it, I get out. We don't know the exact percent stop loss in that case. It really depends on when that happens. The second question is, do I have a set amount for each trade? And that is based on the management that I have in my account size. So I want to make, I think I mentioned this later in the slides, but I typically want to risk on a stop loss around 20%. So if I happen to stop out on about 10% of my trades totally with 20%. For the amount of funds that I use, I was currently using around $10,000 account, and I think I'm willing to lose around $200 to $250 on one trade, so about 2% or so. Let me go over the bracket setup for the thirds that I do. So if I was doing 3 contracts, I'm going to set 2 of those in the bottom line here. This is on Thinkorswim, the active trader. I'll set 2 of the 3 contracts. I'll do a 15% limit and a 20% stop, if you see on the bottom there. When it's really close to the 15%, I'll tend to move the limit order down just to close out of the trade at that point. So it'll be down at the 12 to 15% range on those initial contracts. Then on the last one, I leave the runner on with a 30% stop, with 30% limit with a 20% stop. That last contract, I'll typically move my stop to break even after I close the first 2 contracts. And then I'm just going to stay in between the stop and the limit order. This is how we occasionally will get the 50+% runner contracts, because I'm just moving the limit and stop at the same time. And you just stay in between it. A few things real quick that I'm still testing out. I'm testing out trailing stops, especially when I'm a bit busier and I'm able to, not necessarily look at the market the whole time. So trailing stops, you could do a trailing stop at the 20%. And then as it moves up, the trailing stop moves up as well. Also looking at alternative profit targets, testing different percentages to optimize this. And then again, managing at the SRX levels. I personally don't do this too much, but I'm considering being a little more active and letting it just grow or move to that level. If it happens to cross the other direction, then I'll close it out in that case. Last slide, this was all the trades I did today. They were all winners. If you're looking from the bottom up, I took a 678 call, 2.13. I closed 2 of the 3 at 2.45, and I closed a runner at 2.77. So the runner was even more profitable than the initial 2 contracts. I actually did a video on SRX while it was happening. Next one, I took an IWM, 1.55, closed 2 at 1.72, the runner at 1.85. Then I took another SPY, 2.06 to 2.37. The runner was a little less because I moved my runner to break even. And then I moved up a little bit, so I moved my runner up a little, lock in a little profits on the runner, and that closed at 2.24. The next one was an ATM trade, and the last one was 1.51 to 1.83. So those are all at least 10%. Some of them were 20% winners on that. All right, so any questions? We give you the map. We're here to help and support. Now it's your time to actually trade them. I guess I can unshare my screen at this point.
Yeah, go for it. Sounds good. All right. So thanks, Lance. That was awesome. So just to recap there, Lance has a 90% win rate, massive positive expectancy with the SRX system. And let me just put us back on the screen so you can actually see us
There you
all like this. That's better. Not as big now. Yeah. So what I did is I just posted the link to the SRX levels. For anybody that's not in the SRX levels indicator system, highly, highly recommend it. It's the best indicator system I've come across in 10 years of reviewing these indicators. So the link is in the chat there. You can also find it in the description if you're watching the replay. It'll be the link to the SRX levels if you're interested in joining us. For members that are already in the SRX system, now what we've added is an actual annual offer. So you can actually choose to pay annually. And that's for a pretty big discount. How much did we take off for that, guys? Like, we actually took off quite a bit, I think. I think we're at $8.99 for the annual, right? The last time I looked.
Yeah, it's a big discount. I don't know the percentage.
Let me
share your screen and post the link, I guess.
Yeah, do one of you guys want to share it? Do you want me to do it? I think I can.
It's a 25% discount.
25%, yeah. Okay, cool.
There
we go.
SRX Plus. Just making sure I'm on the right screen here.
Yep.
SRX Plus. All right. So yeah, so let's go through a couple of things here while we're waiting for any questions. So this is SRX Plus Launch Pass page. This is the sales page. Hopefully you guys have seen this before. We go through the sales page really quickly here. You can see loads of different examples of the SRX indicator. So like that's the sell signal that I was talking about with the different SRX levels. I think Phil, did you trade this one, Phil? No, but it was a theoretical 1000% almost on the 0 DTE option. So that's a shame. Yeah. So that's on SPY. So we have all different examples here. So if you want to go and check this out, you can just come and have a look at this page. It goes over some of the things that we've talked about in this presentation. And so, yeah, there's loads of stuff. If you go right down to the bottom here, you can click the buy button. So click to get the SRX levels. Currently, they're $99 a month. And that's why we've actually, due to a poll that we put out in the Discord, basically people are wanting to get a discount on the yearly for the SRX levels. And that's what we're offering for members now. So when you click on that link at the bottom, it takes you to this page, which is the SRX Plus Launch Pass page, where you can actually purchase the system. And so you can see what you get. You get SPY, QQQ, IWM. You get all those levels that we've been talking about this whole presentation. They come out, like we talked about, at 9:50 a.m. every single day. Fresh data-driven levels, which is awesome. And if you want to get the annual, because I know a lot of people that were answering the poll were saying they wanted to do the annual, you just come down to the bottom right here, and you can switch to yearly. You see this box here? It says switch to yearly and save $289. So for $8.99, you can get the SRX Plus for a whole year. So I know some people are still in the core SRX, which was just the SPY, but the SRX Plus now is probably going to end up being cheaper with the annual than if you were paying for the SRX core. That sound about right? I think I'm about right on that. But the SRX,
it's a little bit more with SRX.
A little bit more still, but you get the 3 tickers. Yeah.
Yeah, but I really recommend having QQQ. Even if you don't trade it, it's very helpful trading SPY.
Yeah, just today there were a few of those trades that I showed that I profited on. I saw indications from SPY and QQQ literally at the exact same time. So those typically do much better than just one for SPY.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal system. Really, really good. So yes, this is your chance to get the annual. I don't know how long we're going to keep the annual available for. The idea with the system was we charge monthly. And so it was really by popular demand that we decided to enable the yearly, $8.99 yearly. And so if you have any questions about that, just reach out to Phil or Lance or myself, and we can get you switched over if you're already paying monthly for this indicator. But what's more exciting is actually what we're launching tonight, which is Inner Circle. So we're actually launching an SRX Inner Circle, basically due to the fact that Lance has had such amazing success with this system. We want to pass on the knowledge that he's basically put together in a way that people can actually replicate the results. So imagine being able to win 90% of your trades and double a small account or even a large account in just 2 months. So it's pretty impressive. So a lot of members are asking, well, how does he do it? Can we get some personal coaching and things? And so Lance very kindly has offered to do it, but his time is extremely valuable. So we're launching an Inner Circle, which is going to be limited to just a small handful of members so that we can really give them the best possible customer support. And so this is going to be what we're calling the SRX Inner Circle. And maybe Lance, you can elaborate a little bit on what you're really going to be offering, because you're really taking the lead on this in terms of.
Yeah, so I've had quite a few people DM me asking for like one-on-one Zoom calls and asking for help, either how to set it up, tweaking it to their preferences. So what we're going to do is actually open this up. It's going to be limited to 30 members though, because if we limit it to 500 people, I'm never going to be able to get any sleep at this point. So what we're going to do is, if you join this, you'll have the full year of the SRX with SPY, QEQ, and IWM. We're also going to have a dedicated chat channel where I'm going to look for possible setups, and I'll mention them before they actually occur. I have been doing that quite a bit on the main channel. I'm going to start diverting that more to the Inner Circle members. We're also going to go over 2 Zoom calls every month, and those will be group Zoom calls. We're going to go over real-time chart walkthroughs, going over some of the trades that I take, other setups that you guys are considering, or what help you need with, like, based on how you're trading with your risk profile and whatnot. And you also get one private one-on-one Zoom call with me as well, which, again, I was getting quite a few people asking for these things just to get the one-on-one Zooms. So we're going to just devote this as a more detailed time with it. With the 2 group Zooms a month, they will be archived and in a separate chat channel. So as you guys join, you'll be getting access to all of these at any time. And they're just going to keep building on, every month we're going to have quite a few after a while where you're able to see all the help that you have. Also, you'll have a little bit more personal attention from me when you ask questions on things, because I see that you're a devoted trader and want to help out the people that are, willing to really take their trading to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. So this is amazing. If you think about the value offered here, you're taking a world-class indicator, probably the best indicator that I've ever come across of probably 100 or so indicators I've reviewed over the years. And you're taking an absolute world-class indicator and you're combining it with somebody who's a proven track record of success with it. And then you're having him mentor you basically in a very small environment with just a small number of people to take advantage of that. So this is really for somebody who is really serious about making the SRX indicator work the best possible way for them. And so it's extremely exciting opportunity. I know I'm going to be hanging out with Lance, trying to get all his tips and tricks for making this thing work. Because think about it, 90%, and you doubled an account in 2 months, and it's just ridiculous. It's the next level of trading there. So I'm pretty jealous to see how well you're doing with it. And so we're valuing this at a tentative $3,600, which would be SRX Plus alone, which would retail at $1,188 for the year. So you're getting SRX Plus yearly, which is, we're discounting tonight, but usually it runs at $1,100 odd bucks a year. And you're getting the coaching calls conservatively 100 an hour. And honestly, in the trading finance niche, 100 an hour is probably on the low side, especially for somebody with expertise like Lance, where you're actually getting actionable advice and help and mentoring, rather than just doing some sort of tutoring or something. This is something that can actually make you money. So $100 an hour is on the low side. I know people that won't jump on calls for $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour, that are far inferior to the value that Lance can provide. And so I think it's a pretty exciting opportunity. And so the price is very reasonably priced given all the value here. It's only $14.95. It's a one-time. Is that yearly? It is yearly, right? It's a renews yearly, guys, right?
Yeah, $14.95 yearly. That's right.
Yeah, yearly. Yeah, for sure. So really interesting. I posted the link to buy this in the chat. If you're watching the replay, it will be in the description below. We're also going to be posting it in the Discord over the next few days as well to make sure everybody gets a chance to basically capitalize on this awesome opportunity. So you guys got any questions? I think I saw a couple coming in. Looks like they might be answered though.
Cakeinator had a question a few posts up.
Yeah, you wanted me to put those up on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look. So we're going to share something else in just a minute here as well, which should be pretty interesting to you guys, I think, going forward. So let's see. So Cakeinator says, do you recommend a particular trading platform to copy and paste on?
You're copying and pasting the levels from TradingView. So on the Discord every day at 9:50 Eastern, you get the different SRX levels, and then you put them onto TradingView. For the TradingView is just where you see the actual charts. For the trading platform, I personally use Thinkorswim. Phil uses Webull. And those are the two most popular ones. In both of those, you could do OCO or bracket orders where you could have a take profit and a stop loss.
Pretty cool. All right, so the thing we're going to share here is Lance just shared with me his track record with all the data in it and everything, so we can take a deeper dive and look at some of the trades in more detail. So Lance, you'll need to talk me through this. I'll put it full screen, but you'll need to talk me through what we're looking at and go from there.
All right, so this was every trade that I've taken since the beginning of December. We were in the test run a little before that, but I started taking data when members were able to get in. So I put the date on the left, then either a call or a put. Later on, when we added on IWM and QQQ, I put the ticker symbol on column B. And then D, I put the number of contracts, the premium of what I entered it in, and then the close, that's where I closed them out. And then letter G will be the profit. It's based on the number of contracts times the difference of the premium and close. And then it's the percentage on the right. If you go down a little bit on this, later on I was going over why I took trades and what actually happened. They go down near around 100 or so.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. I was just going to have a quick look at some of your percentages and stuff here, because a lot of people, like, they worry when you start saying things like 90% win rate, they start thinking of, oh, well, the losing trade out of 10 is going to negate like all of your winners. And that's just clearly not the case. Here you can see the winning trades are these first four, for example, 13%, 40%, 12%, 12%. And then you have a losing trade, which is only minus 13%. So you're only giving back one of the smallest winners there.
If you move the spreadsheet a little bit to the right, it has the total data.
Okay, see if we can actually do that. You've actually plotted it graphically instead of me going through it manually.
Yeah, if you look at those main numbers there, that shows the gain loss of every individual trade. So you can see that there's a large amount of small winners. I occasionally get some pretty big wins as well. And then if you look at the points below the zero line, there's been pretty minimal amount of losses. But look up at the very top of that spreadsheet. You're going to see the total data.
All right.
Yes, total data, I have a profit of $5,733 total since December 1st. Average percent win per trade, that includes the losses. So the losses will bring this average down. But the average percent was 8.61% for every single trade. And then a 90.21% win rate. As you can see, 212 wins offset only with 23 losses. The typical loss is around 15 to 20%. But if you're getting 90% win rate, only 10% of the trades are losing around 15 to 20%, but the other 90% are making around 12% or so. As you can see, that's really good data and good results that we have.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Any questions on this data, guys? It's pretty amazing to me. Like, this is really, really phenomenal. Just kind of looking down here. There's the next losing trade, -8%, -12%, not too bad. So yeah, lots and lots of base hits over and over again. Really cool. Really cool. Let's see if there's any more.
So if anyone else has any other questions, we have about 10 minutes or so we can answer them.
Yeah, I can kind of hang out and chat. So, Phil, do you have any comments on Lance's amazing results? I mean, he seems to be performing, maybe even outperforming your back testing.
he actually is outperforming my back testing. I have my own system that I trade with, and I can't quite replicate what he's doing here. I'm very profitable with my system, and that's why I haven't changed it. So I think that's the really neat thing is there's just all kind of ways that you can play SRX. You've got Lance's system. I have a system. As Urban Organics was saying earlier, he has a system where he does spreads based off these. So there's lots of ways to do it. And if you're brand new to SRX, or if you've been in SRX and you're struggling a little bit, this coaching is where you need to be. Spend a year, learn from Lance, and copy his moves, and then you've got a solid foundation. And then you can branch out and create your own systems. Maybe you find something better than Lance finds. So yeah, Lance's results are just they really are incredible. That's a lot of trades there. That's almost 250 trades. So
yeah.
That's statistically significant. That's the 2 words of the night. SRX levels are statistically significant, and Lance's data is also statistically significant. So great job, Lance.
For sure. And if Lance can actually do this as a full-time teacher, there's really no excuse for some of us, right? That just don't work full-time jobs.
Even one of the trades today, my internet was being really slow in the middle of it, and it still worked out. Definitely having the OCO order in place helps in case it happens to be a big blow up, but it worked out really well as well.
All right, we have a question from Cakeinator. So the SRX Plus, does it come with training and a little help with the application?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. So there's a training guide exactly how to enter in the levels, how to set up your settings on it. And if you do the inner circle, you'll get the 2 monthly group coaching calls and a one-on-one with me as well.
Yep, pretty good. Pretty good. All right, another question from Barry. Let's see. Hey guys, I came in late, so you may have covered this earlier. My question is, do you use a stop loss in SRX? And if so, what is it? It's a good question.
I personally use a stop loss at 20% in most cases. I'll also look at the actual level. So say we break and retest. I'll sometimes put a alert price at the level. So if it reverses again and then goes to the level, I'll stop out at that point as well. But I personally do a 20% stop loss on most trades.
Just to give it a bit of room to move.
Right. That is something that I'm currently testing more on.
Yeah, and I use a 10% stop loss on mine. And obviously the win rate is impacted by that.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's still profitable that way as well. So, whichever way you want to go.
Cool. Erwin's saying not a question, really just to say thank you all. SRX Indicator is awesome and has changed the way I trade. Took me a while to understand it, but now it's my daily compass. That's awesome, Erwin. It's really good to hear that. I think Phil's probably enjoying that too, to know the fruits of his labor. People are actually really excited about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing seeing the chat. I mean, I wasn't even there most of the day today, and I came in and I was reviewing the chat, and it's just so many pictures of people posting their profits in there. So it's really cool to see how many people have latched onto this and made it their own.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Question for Lance from the Cakeinator. What percentage of your 10,000 account do you use per trade, and how much time per day does it take?
Per trade, I base it on the stop loss. If it's a 20% loss, I'm willing to lose about 2 to 3% per trade. We actually have a spreadsheet on this that'll help calculate it for you in terms of what your account size is, what percent you're willing to risk per trade, and how many times per day. It really depends on how free I am. I'll typically try to trade right before my students come in or during lunch. It's ideally like when the good setup comes up, that's when you take it. So it really depends on the day. Some days are more trending upward, trending down days. I might take more trades those days. Other times, if it's a pretty flat market, then I won't take as many, or some days I won't take any or one.
Cool. Okay, sounds good. Any more questions, guys? This is your chance to ask Lance really what the secret is to using this indicator to get a 90% win rate and double a small account in just 2 months. It's pretty impressive. So we'll hang around for a little bit here. If you are a member, just reach out to us if you want a link to the annual. I know a lot of people in the poll asked for a link to the annual. I think we went through it clearly enough in the presentation tonight, how to do it. Basically, you just go to the order form and it's been added as an annual option to it. So yeah, definitely check it out. Looks like there's not really any more questions here. Do you guys have anything else to add?
If you actually want to be a good trader and not just following alerts just to see, oh yeah, this alert tells me what to do, so I'm going to do it. And you actually want to deep dive into how the markets work, how these support and resistance levels could help amplify when good setups are. It's not only about just, I'm going to follow what this thing says. It's all about trying to figure out the reasons why and improving on your trading. This would be a great program for you.
Yeah, for sure. Casey just turned up. He said, hello, just came in. Will the recording be posted soon? Yeah, the recording is at the same link that you're watching now. So you just have to refresh the page here. So it's basically just posted as a live on my YouTube channel. So it'll be posted there. So you can watch the recording as soon as we're done. It'll just be at the same link that you came to see this now. So you'll be able to start it afresh when we finish up in a few moments. So highly recommend coming and joining us for sure. If you're just wanting to test out SRX levels, just click the top link that I'm just posting in the chat. Again, it will be in the description for people watching the replay. The top link gives you access to the SRX levels on a monthly basis or an annual basis if you are looking to save that money. It's well worth it. It's a really good investment in your trading. And the second link there, the LaunchPass link directly, is to the SRX Inner Circle. So if you really enjoyed using SRX, but you want to take your trading to the next level, that's the link that you want to click and sign up for before the 30 spots fills up. And if you're an existing member and you want to do this tomorrow or whatever, just reach out to Lance, Phil, or myself, and we can get you set up with that. But unless there's any more questions, I think we've covered everything for the night. Casey's saying the link shows an error. Well, we definitely need to fix that. Which link is it, Casey, that shows an error?
The URL posted as one giant thing. Let me see if I can. Oh, I can't post. Yeah, you just have to do 2 separate comments, I think, Russell. It all blended together in one comment.
All right. Okay. So I'll post the SRX. It's not easy to say that sometimes. SRX. All right. So the first link I'm posting here is the SRX levels. So that's just for the SRX. If you're just wanting to do that, if you want to do the Inner Circle, which by the way is going to be well worth it for sure. The opportunity to sit alongside somebody who's making significant money, and using these levels. That's the SRX level. So he says that link is better. Good.
Perfect.
I'm glad. So hopefully people watching the replay will get the links very carefully put in the description, and you can sign up there. Again, if you're a member already, just reach out to us. If you can't get these links to work, we'll set you up with what you're looking for, whether it's the annual SRX or if it's the Inner Circle mentoring. It'd be pretty awesome. So, all right, guys. Well, I don't have much else to say. Do you guys have anything else to say, or are we done? I think we're pretty close to done.
I just got to shout out my buddy Jake, who's in the chat. Thanks for joining us tonight, Jake.
All right, cool. All right, guys. Well, hopefully that was useful. It certainly was for me to see Lance's detailed trade management. And Casey's looking forward to watching the recording, and it will be up as soon as we hang up in about 10 seconds from now, unless there's any other questions. So thanks again, guys, for watching. Thanks, Lance and Phil, for coming on and talking through this. And I will see you guys in the Discord tomorrow.
All right, bye, guys.
Good night, everyone.